Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining on what we think is a pretty hot topic of the moment that we're excited to talk about. I'm Jo, and I'm here with my colleague Frances. I'm dialing in from New York. Frances is in our Antwerp office. So welcome to all of you. Feel free to leave your location in the chat, and throughout the conversation, leave some questions. We're going to be monitoring it and trying to pull you into the conversation, although we have way too much to share today for the time allotted. So we'll see how it goes. We'll keep it casual and conversational, hopefully, as we go. For those of you who don't know who we are, we're BOI. We're an AI services company. So we've been working both on AI strategy and AI build for enterprises. We're working with a lot of large organizations around the globe. And we're happy to have you all here today on a topic that, I don't know, I feel like if you go on LinkedIn, this seems to be like the topic of the hour, the idea of agentic commerce and what's happening in the space. And I would say really clear that search is shifting right now. Google is, of course, still the massive leader with 14 billion searches a day, which is crazy. But growth for Google has slowed to 9% over the last 2 years. And what we're seeing that's really accelerating, of course, is AI search. So ChatGPT queries right now are just a teensy fraction of search. It's actually under 2%. But they've grown 65% in the same period. So that acceleration in AI queries is really what brands are starting to feel today. And that's why we're having this conversation. So Google is still, of course, the dominant force, and a full shift to AI search is going to take time, maybe years. And maybe at that point, Google's AI will have developed to be the tool of choice. I mean, there's such an arms race right now in this space. So who knows? And I don't know about you, Frances, but I do not like to try to predict the future on anything related to AI because any of us who think we're experts at this, nobody really knows. We'll see what happens. But what is causing conversation among brand leaders and marketers, and I'm having a lot of those conversations, and Frances, I know you are too, is just how fast consumers are moving from traditional search to AI. And as growth leaders, people running businesses, they're seeing that impact on their company's website click-through rates. And that's really interesting. In some parts, it can be concerning. And so we're going to try to unpack some of that today. Start by looking at some behavioral data, because I think it's always a good place to start. So even today, while Google is still like an ocean and ChatGPT is like the bucket of search, that small share is still kind of starting to shape habits. So people are getting comfortable answering, getting answers from ChatGPT. They're starting to trust those answers, and they're discovering products instead of through direct links that they would get in a typical Google search. So Adobe survey data shows that 77% of Americans that are using ChatGPT treat it like a search engine. That's not surprising. I think that's actually how a lot of people think about ChatGPT, as a search engine. And 71% say they want to shop through it. Only a third today say they trust it more than traditional search, but that's growing. And 35% have discovered new products that way. So that big headline thought is that AI is definitely changing visibility in the digital world, and that impacts brands. So it seems really logical that 76% of marketers think it's important for their brand to appear in ChatGPT answers. I have not spoken to a brand leader or a brand marketer who isn't concerned about this. If you're one of those, put it in the chat, curious to see, are you concerned about this? Is this something that keeps you up at night? But while we're thinking about that, I think the truth is Agentic Commerce is really evolving, right? It's evolving fast. So yesterday, it was really about chatbots that were more customer support tools, right? This was where it was very reactive. It's answering your questions or pointing you to a product page, or you're just yelling at it and getting annoyed because you want a live human and you're getting a bot instead. Today, assistants are explaining or filtering and recommending, and they can also hand you straight into checkout. But tomorrow, the AI assistant itself is going to be the storefront. So it's not just going to suggest, it's going to bundle and personalize and complete the purchase wherever that shopper is, which is pretty interesting. So love to have just a quick poll here for everyone. If you're a brand leader, a brand marketer, or someone who's interested in this, have you felt the impact of agentic search on your business yet? Not yet. Yes, I'm seeing less site traffic. Yes, I'm seeing more assistant referrals, or I'm not sure. If everyone just take a second and respond to that poll. Francis, are we getting any responses there?
Yeah, we're getting our first responses. When you go to the chat window on your right, you'll also see a poll section where you can answer and participate in this poll. So far, half of respondents are saying not yet, and other half is split between yes, seeing less traffic, and yes, seeing more assistant referrals.
Interesting. All right, great. Well, let's keep going. So let's have a 2025 reality check. And when Francis and I were building this presentation today, our goal was actually to focus in on data points from the last few months, like not even like end of 2024, because change is so fast right now. And we don't want this to be like a panic kind of webinar, but let's talk about some realities. First, yeah, consumers are shifting faster than brands can keep up. You know, if you're in charge of growth for your company, this is complicated right now. Second, traffic really hasn't disappeared, but the patterns are starting to look really different than what we're used to, which means there's a lot of change coming in the way that we work. Third, the role of gatekeepers is changing. So in the past, algorithms like Google or Amazon ranked results, but people still clicked and compared. But now the agents don't just rank it, they decide for you what answers matter. And in some cases, they can actually move the shopper directly into the cart or checkout. So, wow, that's a big change. And what does that mean for a growth leader? It means that the traditional funnel is sort of collapsing. Discovery or awareness is much more mediated, and differentiation has to be machine readable. The query has to be able to answer this on your behalf. So that's the context for everything we're going to talk about next: the myths, the case studies, and some practical moves you can make right now. Sound good? All right, onward. So just to level set, and I don't want to spend a lot of time here, because I assume if you're here, it's because you know a little something about agentic commerce, but what we're not talking about here is robots taking over all of shopping tomorrow. That's not what's happening right now. In 2025, agents handle discovery and comparison, but for the most part, they're still handing the buyer to a brand or a retailer to finalize the transaction. So what's agentic right now is really the start and the middle of the journey. So awareness and consideration. The bottom or a conversion is still starting to emerge, but we're going to talk about all three parts of that.
Yeah, and maybe let's start with an example, right? So maybe with the OG, the one that started really the hype around agentic commerce, ChatGPT, but ChatGPT shopping. And we're going to use an example throughout this webinar, the example of me looking for my next cargo bike, my next e-bike. Here I'm doing the shopping. Something to already notice is that the query is completely different from what you're used to, right? So you know this, but in the past, very keyword heavy. I would type in best e-bike, best cargo bike, maybe for families. Now I'm telling, hey, you're a bike expert, help me find this, here's my preferences. And the more that AI knows about me, the better results I'm going to get in the future. So far, nothing special. Next, the real kicker, right? So what you're seeing as when you scroll down is this product carousel. And here, the very different thing is that you're seeing only a limited number of very highly relevant options. AI has done the research for us, and now it's going to present us with a short list, a very short list in this case, only 2 options that are ideal for us. And here the big takeaway is that you can't make do anymore with being the default choice for most people. You cannot be the best average. You need to very clearly articulate who your products are for and who they're not for, so that an agent who's doing all of this research knows when to recommend a product to this person or when to not recommend a product. You cannot get by on brand recognition alone anymore. The days of having a long list of products and people spotting, oh, that's Apple. I want to get Apple because Apple is cool. That's over. You're getting 2 options in ChatGPT. You need to specify why that option is right for you. So when you then click on that option, you get all of the trust signals. So let's dive into those 3 things to point out here. 1, there's still a buy box, though at the moment, very unclear who ChatGPT is pointing into the direction of the buy box and how to win it. And then 2 other things. So 1 is the research summary of why is this right for you, just like an assistant would do for you. And then the whole section on this is what people are saying. So trust signals, social signals, based on reviews, based on reports, lots based on Reddit as well, but Joe will talk about that later. So that's ChatGPT, right? But this same system is popping up everywhere. It's popping up for MasterCard, who's launching Agent Pay with agentic tokens that enables agents to transact securely for you. You've got TripAdvisor and OpenTable, both partnering with ChatGPT to bring in reviews, to bring in that option to reserve a table. But you also see Booking.com bringing this into their ecosystem. You see Amazon having Rufus to have an agent to chat with you. So you see this pop up all over the place. Then maybe to all be on the same page, because there's lots of words to describe what we're talking about today. There's AIO for agent overviews, but actually confusingly, AIO has a different meaning, which is also AI optimization. Yet another word, it's not even on here. It overlaps with AEO, it overlaps with GEO. How I like to think about it or remember it is AEO gets you cited, and AO gets you chosen. In the end, all of it is about how do we make sure that our content is seen and understood by agents so that they can recommend the right thing to consumers.
I know. I guess just like the arms race on what's going to be the platform of choice, what lingo is going to be the one that actually emerges, because it's very funny. And I think even if you do a press search right now and you look at every article, everyone's referring to it differently. It's just kind of crazy time. All right. So thanks, Francis. We're going to move now into some myth busting and discuss some of the assumptions that a lot of brand leaders might be making right now that maybe don't match what's really happening today. If you watch this webinar a month from now, maybe it's happening then. So this might be a moment in time of relevance for this webinar. So myth number one, agents are already buying for everyone. You know, the idea that they're doing that is really overstated. What's really widespread today is conversational planning, shortlisting and chat, and then typically a handoff link to a cart or app for payment. That, of course, still changes growth math. So if you're in growth marketing, it's still going to be a change, because whoever wins the answer in chat, as Francis just showed, controls the handoff. Because if you're not the answer, you're not being linked anywhere. So a practical move is to make your catalog, your price, your shipping, your return policy really clean, really machine readable, and have deep links exposed so an agent can recommend you with confidence. Myth number two, zero click is zero opportunity. Zero click looks bad on your dashboard, so it hurts those kind of vanity metrics, but it doesn't necessarily mean lost revenue. When an agent recommends you and passes the shopper along, there are fewer tabs, so there's fewer distractions. And we're starting to see this scale. Just a few stats that are on the page here. In June alone, AI platforms drove over 1 billion referrals, and that was up 357% year over year. Wow. And Amazon, Etsy, eBay, and Walmart each captured millions. They are the big winners right now in that type of citation. So those visits are also higher quality with better engagement and lower bounce. So an AI referred retail visit showed a 9% engagement, a 9% increase in engagement, and a 27% reduction in bounce rates versus like a non-AI result in May of 2025. So that's pretty recent. So the brands that win are the ones that show up as the answer and make the handoff pretty seamless. So the session isn't the prize anymore, right? That's what we were using growth marketing was to drive sessions to our site. Now the answer is the prize. So if the assistant trusts your content enough to quote it, you're in good shape and you have the potential to beat your competitors and show up in the answer. So from there, the job is to like remove the friction so that you can actually transact with that customer. So that's myth two. Myth three, SEO is dead. It isn't gone, but it's certainly evolving. Agents are right now pulling passages and tables to sites. So that means what we used to do when we built a website in terms of optimizing for SEO. Instead, now we really need pages to look like source documents. They have to actually have short, scannable answers, have more comparison tables, more FAQs. So you have to build content that's structured and clear. And if you do, the truth is you could be both Google friendly and agent friendly. And you have to be both right now because the overlap is bigger than it seems. So you can't like abandon all the tactics of the past and forget about SEO, nor can you not try to address right now how to be scannable by AI. So we'll talk about this a little bit more. Myth 4, citations are fair. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen this study by Profound, but ChatGPT, Google's AI overviews, and Perplexity don't cite the web evenly, right? They lean on a pretty short list of sources. So Profound studied 10 million citations, and they found that Wikipedia style explainers, Reddit threads, and YouTube demos were like the big winners. So basically, if you want to be in the conversation in the chat, your content has to live where the models are looking. So you've got to treat your own site certainly as a source, but you also have to make sure you're putting proof in the places that get quoted. If your brand is not represented in Wikipedia or Reddit, you're likely not going to show up in an AI answer. So this is something to really think about. Myth 5, AI search hurts every category the same. This is sort of interesting. So it doesn't hurt every category the same. So if you have a question style query, like how to, or what is, or what's the best X for Y, like Francis showed, what's the best bike for me, then when Google shows an AI overview, they're going to prioritize that. And in that instance, clicks on the page can drop around 40%. But if you're searching more brand or purchase intent searches, like what's Nike's return policy, or I want to buy an iPhone, it's still going to drive more direct traffic. So the play here is to own the question space with really definitive structured answers and make sure that where assistants do hand you off, your feeds and links are accurate and clean. But know that for right now, the queries really determine where AI search is really showing up versus more traditional search. Myth 6, the funnel is dead. I actually think we even had a couple of webinars a year ago that said the funnel is dead. I would say the funnel isn't fully dead yet, but it's very compressed and looped. This is a model that we call the perpetual loop that we actually built a year ago that really demonstrates that we are still moving people from awareness to purchase, but in steps that blur and repeat quickly. So in this model, agents anticipate needs from the context, they nudge with a lot of options, and they learn from how we behave. So for marketers, all this is just to say that there are two audiences that we're marketing to, the human and the agent. So you really need to be thinking about both, and your language and your evidence need to work for both. And that's, I think, really the general theme of what we're going to say repeatedly today over and over again. Myth 7, you can't measure agent influence. Well, if your dashboard is only showing page views, you're definitely going to misread performance. So there are a lot of new signals that matter: share of AI citations, traffic labeled, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Meta AI, and orders that start from deep links or messaging flows. So these tell you whether you're participating in the no-click funnel, even as classic SEO numbers are starting to decline. So really important that you start thinking about and measuring it. So those are just some myths that we thought would be interesting to talk about. I think at this point, we're going to move from myth busting to talk a little bit about what you can actually do as a growth leader, some maybe more practical moves that you can make at each stage of the journey with the customer. Francis, do we want to pause on any questions in the chat or keep going at this point?
There's some practical questions around what should we do with commonly asked AI prompts? Like, should we be following them? Should we be tracking them? And then should we be answering them via FAQ sections? The answer is yes, definitely. And I have an example on how to do that a little bit later on.
Yeah, I would say too, what's really interesting is as you're tracking that is really, if you're a brand owner and you have a website, is really changing the way you articulate things on your website to match those answers and questions. So we've typically done that as brand leaders, like in FAQs, we have short sections that are question and answer focused, but it's not really what typically shows up in the PDP. It's where we're always like just pushing our brand attributes out. But we're going to talk a little bit more about this. There's ways that you can kind of restructure your own language to marry that so that you can be more likely cited. Anything else we want to answer at this stage or keep going?
We can keep going.
Okay, great. All righty. So even though we said the funnel is changing, we are going to talk a little bit about awareness, consideration, and conversion, because these are obviously still, if you're a brand leader or a marketer or working in growth in any way, these are still things that you have a lot of tactics piled up on. So let's talk about awareness, where the goal is to be the paragraph that AI quotes. So this means, as we just said, structuring pages like a Q&A. So natural question subheads, short answers, and tables or checklists are easy to excerpt. And these are things that you can build in. So you can add FAQs and how-tos. But it's not just about doing that on your own site. You also need to see proof in other places. So as we mentioned, Reddit in particular is punching above its weight in AI citations and human trust. There was an interesting study by a company named Ambascos that said amongst Gen Z, comment threads on Reddit are rated more helpful than TikTok and Instagram. I found that actually pretty interesting because you think that Gen Z is very TikTok and Instagram focused, but Reddit is even winning in those spaces. So really important to really be monitoring those channels and seeing what's showing up about your brand there. Also, PR gets really important. You could start to think of PR more like a distribution channel in many ways, because if you can land coverage on highly crawled outlets, that's also going to help. So, you really want to publish where people and models are looking, both of those things. And finally, I would say at the awareness stage, and this isn't really happening yet, but we should start planning for the world where ads and sponsorships are inside the answer experience. Because the fact that this is all free right now, I don't know, that doesn't seem like that's going to be the thing in the future. So we should start thinking about that and preparing for that. All right, Francis, let's get some awareness examples.
Yeah, and Walmart is a great example of many things AI. They've been doing such a great job. At the top of the funnel, we are used to, again, shoppers browsing categories with rigid keywords, right? They type in some sort of snack, maybe gummy bears for a road trip or paprika crisps. And now increasingly, because they're getting used to working with ChatGPT and others, they're writing their queries in natural language. So Walmart has fully enabled this. Right now, already, you can type in something like, help me plan a birthday party, or help me find some snacks for a road trip. And instead of giving you the specific product you were asking for, Walmart is going to look across categories and research the intent of your query to figure out what are the products that you need. And that curated selection is going to be shown to you so that you don't have to do the research anymore. That's what the awareness stage is now going to look like. Instead of you coming with a solution, instead of you coming with the product you're looking for, you're going to type and tell the AI or whatever search box there is, what is the need that you have, what is the problem that you're experiencing, and you're going to expect whatever tool you're chatting with to come to you with solutions, to come to you with offerings. And what's more, those should all be tailored to you. So that's how awareness is really changing. And a company is really playing into this rather well is Ramp. So Ramp is a fintech company, and they're really punching above their weight when it comes to AI visibility. So the takeaway from the previous slide, right, was consumers are changing how they search. They're going from keywords to natural language prompts. And what Ramp did really well is figure out what are the things that people are prompting for, and what are the things that AI agents are looking for to answer those prompts. And what they then did was write tailored content specifically to answer those questions. And in a matter of a month, Ramp saw a 7-fold increase in their brand visibility in these chat engines. What's more, they even overtook like something of 11 competitors. They doubled the amount of times their own content was cited by AI. So you're seeing dramatic results here. And those results speak for themselves, right? So we shouldn't be optimizing just for humans anymore, but rather we should be optimizing for both humans and for agents, because those are really the two people or two entities rather that are searching online. This is the shift that really put them ahead. And the tool they used for this is a tool we also work with, but there's many more out there. It's called Profound. It's also they did the research that Joe was citing earlier. It's a tool you can use to figure out how your brand is doing in these chat engines, but also to track the citations. So that leads you to then PR opportunities, also something Joe was talking about. How do you find out where you should put your PR efforts? Well, by tracking citations and then figuring out, are we listed in these citations? And if not, that becomes a PR opportunity.
Yeah.
Interesting question from Peter in the chat. He's asking about, okay, how do we find out what people are prompting for? Are companies offering this information up?
And I'm glad you asked.
I'm glad you asked, because we have a slide about this. So the reality is, no, they're not offering up this information for free, but luckily we can still approximate what people are prompting for. One way is via search suggestions, which is basically an early AI attempt from Google anyway to complete your search. And you can track this, for example, in a tool called Answer the Public. So I would type in what cargo bike, and then the search suggestion is being filled. That entire box is something you can scrape via some tools. Then people also ask, same principle, again, Google, who was trained on all of their search data, an AI model to come up with questions that people are also asking and searching for. This is something, again, you can scrape. We use Ahrefs for this. Something you can track, dump in a big Excel, and then use either a GPT or manual work to figure out, okay, what are the blogs we should write to address these questions.
Yeah.
Then a third way is social listening or customer service twofold, to figure out how people are talking about your category, so about your product category, what language are they using, but also with which questions are they expressing their needs, which questions are they asking, and that is exactly the questions you should be writing articles about, and you should be translating into FAQ sections. One more thought around all of this: if you have an owned domain, if you have a website, and you're putting the effort to put an AI assistant on that website, that also becomes a source for you to know what people are asking for, because that is basically a data goldmine.
Right. I think, I hope these last few slides here, the ramp example, this sort of guide here, make you feel like that while this might feel scary and daunting, that actually you can have influence here. The truth is, this information exists, it's available to you, and you have the ability to reflect it in the work that you're doing as a brand leader or a growth marketer to make sure that you are showing up in these kind of searches. This isn't as complicated as maybe it looks. And so hopefully, seeing that ramp result and how quickly they were able, if you search, seeing where ramp shows up right now in agentic search for the size of that company, it's pretty impressive. And that's just a concerted effort to put content out there that answers questions. Okay. Great. I think we're going to do one quick poll here on which what needs the most work for your brand. Is it visibility? Is it hallucination, sentiment, more AI referrals? None. Just curious from the group here where things are.
So again, if you go to the chat window, up top, you'll see a poll section, and there you can vote to participate in this poll. Already early results, there's only 2 categories that are really getting votes. That's 1, more visibility, and 2, more AI referrals. The 2 sections that are not getting any votes are fewer hallucinations and improved sentiment around our brand. That's actually very interesting. To me, that speaks to the fact that most brands are still very early in their efforts to be seen online, because once you know that you're a category leader, that you're consistently shown and have very great visibility, then the next step becomes, how do we make sure that everything that's being told about us and about our products is accurate and is correct? And the step afterwards is, okay, how do we make sure that when we're being recommended or being shown, the reviews are positive and we have great sentiment around the products?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a hierarchy, and it's very interesting. I think the hallucinations are real. One of the things we're going to talk about a little bit later is if your product catalog, your return policy, all these things are not up to date, you're going to see it in AI search. There's going to be misinformation out there about your brand in a significant way. All righty. Let's move past the awareness phase and talk a little bit about consideration, where the goal really is to win the in-chat comparison, as Francis demonstrated earlier, because that's where the comparison's happening now. It's happening in the chat. So if your product page is already reading like that comparison, you have a much greater opportunity to make the shortlist, as we've said. So again, showing pros and cons, competitor context, even who your product isn't for. Francis made the point earlier that if you are trying to be a generalist as a brand or selling the same thing to everybody, it's really going to hurt you in this context. So this is where you have to really lean into who do you think the buyer really is, and make those changes in your own content on your own website to be really clear about who you are for and who you're not for, because that's going to build trust and it's going to get you into the chat and the comparison. Also leveraging verified reviews and structuring them so agents can parse them, and keeping, as I just mentioned, specs, pricing, and inventory up to date, because agents penalize inconsistency immediately. So if they see more than one type of information, they're not going to use it at all, but they can also quote the wrong information if it's stale. And I actually noticed this on a brand that I was tracking, where it seemed to think we had a product that we did not have, but it was reliably showing up with that product in chat, which you certainly wouldn't want at the consideration stage, because that's going to just cause that friction at conversion, because that thing is not going to exist. All right, let's look at some consideration examples, Francis.
Yeah, so who doesn't love one more example, right? In this case, let's imagine that we have the luxury of working for a very well-known brand, and for some reason, people are still coming to our website, whether that's paid advertising, whether that's brand recognition. We have the luxury of people.
It's B2B, so maybe they are still going to the website.
Exactly. That's always a little bit slower, right? We've got the luxury of people coming to the website, but they're overwhelmed by options. And for some reason, they leave the website again to go to their trusted AI advisor, general advisor. But once there, that's the big risk. Now you're in a consideration set with every other brand that's out there, and you're likely to lose that customer. So once a customer comes on your website, how can we keep them there? How can we make sure that we own the environment that the customer is in? And this is a great example from Agentforce by Salesforce, how they're doing this with Ford Pro. It's not just a chatbot that's helping the customer find the right choice, but if we can play the video again, or if you looked at the video while it was playing, what you see is that the website is changing dynamically after the query has been posed. So in this case, they're asking about a fleet for the Chicago winters. And when they get a response and say, well, this car is right for you, it's automatically pulling up the relevant cars. So not anymore the big list. And this is more and more what you'll start seeing. When you're on a website, you'll still want to have that same experience for consumers as they have in ChatGPT or in Google Shopping. Personalize it all the way and bring up the relevant information.
Right. I mean, if behavior is changing, which we showed you earlier that it is, it means the behavior is going to start to want to be everywhere. And so if you ignore that behavior on your own site, you're driving people back to the chat interface that they prefer, which means you're driving them back to an environment where your competitors live, not just you, right? Risky for sure. At conversion, bottom of the funnel, we're really looking at a very simple goal here, is like, how do we shorten the distance between, yes, I want that, and I paid for that. This is, if you're a direct to consumer brand, the abandoned cart is the devil. So what are some of the things that you can think about at the conversion stage? First of all, exposing clean, deep links. So that means giving agents URLs that point directly to a checkout page or a cart with the right product or variant or the discount already applied, so that there's no extra clicks, no hunting around, right? The way you have a seamless handoff here is that you get them exactly what they want when they want it. You can also start to use platform integrations where they exist, and these are obviously changing every day. So again, this could be out of date 4 weeks from now, but Instagram Shopping, Google Merchant, anywhere assistants can pass customers through, you could certainly be there. I also would say don't overlook messaging commerce. So WhatsApp, for example, already lets buyers browse, add to cart, and pay inside the chat. This varies by region. By the way, this is not universally available, but adoption is really growing. So and we've got people here from all around the world. I know like in India, this is already goes directly to checkout in WhatsApp. So depending on where you live, where you work, this is something that's really going to start to be a conversion vehicle that you should start to think about. So these are all just very practical moves you can make now, and together they sort of set the stage for what Shopify is beginning to scale natively inside AI conversations, and that's what Francis is going to take us through next.
Yeah, so this is a release from only a couple days old. They've released Universal Cart, Shopify Catalog, and all of these services really signal that Shopify is trying to do two things, right? One, they're trying to give the opportunity to everyone, every app developer, every web shop owner, to build this conversation style checkout where a consumer chats with an agent and doesn't have to leave the conversation to have the full buying experience. Like Joe was saying, currently Agentic Commerce really is about discovery. It's about doing the research and finding some relevant options, but ultimately there's still a handoff to cart. And with the Shopify tools, now you're able to build a conversation where your consumer really doesn't have to leave the conversation, and the consumer can search through many different stores, get some products together, and then within the conversation say, yes, I want this, checkout is done, and doesn't have to go to a website and go to cart. At the same time, and that's something else entirely, you see lots of rumors and some code popping up that Shopify is trying to integrate with an OpenAI or with these other platforms so that they become the tool of choice to handle the transaction within these platforms. Because ultimately, Shopify wants to be where the conversation is, and that is in many different spaces. And that's not just Shopify, it's PayPal, it's MasterCard, it's Visa. They all have multiple strategies.
This is coming. I mean, we'll redo this webinar maybe in a month, and there'll be a whole different conversation here. But the interesting thing here on the Shopify integration too is that you could shop from multiple shops at once. So back to even the Walmart prompt, and I think about what does that do to sort of the superstore complex like Walmart and Amazon, is it turns individual storefronts into that ability to do, like, so you could be saying, I'm shopping for a birthday party, shop from multiple Shopify sites and have one checkout, which is kind of fascinating. We'll see where that goes. So that's the bottom of the funnel. We talked a little bit about KPIs, but I think it's really important just to hit this one again, that how do you measure success in this new world? First, you need to track your share of AI citations. Are assistants naming you in answers? Next, agentic referrals, sessions that start from a recommendation. Then AI origin sessions and revenue tag to ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Meta, whoever. You can add agent-assisted orders, conversions that begin from deep links or messaging flows. So, and of course, as we said earlier, you really should be monitoring your coverage in Wikipedia, Reddit, YouTube, and other places that assistants are pulling from. So if you start to pull these types of stats and review them weekly, you can catch some of those early signals instead of waiting on seeing kind of a change in SEO results, which I think a lot of people are starting to experience.
If there's any slide I would screenshot, it's that previous slide with all the KPIs. Because when we're speaking to different teams, last chance, screenshot time.
Yes. Well, yes.
When we're speaking to teams, what we hear a lot is that if they're tracking AI data already, AI traffic already, the thing they're tracking is referral traffic. And that leads some teams to come to the conclusion that overall AI traffic is super low and doesn't deserve their attention yet. And that is a very dangerous assumption to make, because most people who research your product category online or even your brand in ChatGPT, they never even convert to your website. They go to different endpoints. So to then say, oh, the traffic that's coming from ChatGPT is so low, we don't need to think about it. That's very dangerous. So let's estimate this opportunity in a different way, right? To continue with the cargo bike brand, let's say they're in Canada. We put all the assumptions here on paper. They're definitely assumptions, but then you see how the calculation is built. There's 360 billion search queries on ChatGPT alone per year. That's a definite number. 5% of those are Canadian. Also research that. Bike related, a little bit more of an assumption there, but it's less than 0.1%. And then even more interestingly, only 2% of those are transactional queries. And for all of you who know your benchmarks, you'll find this is quite low. And that's because in ChatGPT, only 30% of traffic can be categorized in the same way as Google traffic. So is it informational? Is it transactional? And 70% of it is totally new. These are queries like, generate me an image, help me vibe code this app, be my boyfriend. These are queries that are totally new. So there's no transactional intent in them. So therefore, that number is low. And then 4% sales conversion, that's for internet leads. We're assuming the purchase of a $5,000 bike here. Cargo bikes are expensive, I'm finding out. That leads to a $76 million opportunity for a bike brand in Canada. Now, there's some considerations here, right? So to make this business case a bit bigger, ChatGPT is not alone. There's definitely more players than just ChatGPT, which can lead you to have a quite large growth potential. If we go to the next slide, you'll see how that translates into eventually a $2 billion opportunity. Also assuming AI usage is growing fast. 35% year on year. Some of our younger colleagues are already saying, instead of I'll Google it, I'll chat it. Entering the vocabulary like that, I can only assume huge things, huge growth.
Once you're a verb, you're good to go.
You're good to go. That's how you know you've made it. ChatGPT might also convert much better than regular internet leads, right? You saw with the bikes, only 2 options. They're very well tailored to you. Why would I not go for it? So there's some growth potential there as well. Ultimately, the number doesn't really matter. The point is, in the next years, AI-assisted purchasing could very well be the most important online retail channel. And that's the point we're trying to get across.
Wow. Yeah. And we're not going to stop there. We have a few provocative thoughts for you at the end of this, not this page, but just a few things that you could do right now, just to summarize what we said before we start going to our next thought here. A few things you can do. Run an AI visibility audit on your top 10 questions. Francis gave you some clues on how to do that. Fill the biggest gaps that you find with 3 genuinely helpful pieces of content that answer those questions that perhaps you're not answering. Rewrite a product page into an answer format, like a short comparison style response an agent would generate. Switch on a conversational order flow in chat or in messaging, whatever's available to you where you are, and add the new KPIs that you screenshotted a few moments ago at Francis's urging to your dashboard so you can see some progress immediately. I think I'm going to skip this next poll, Francis, just because I think we're running a little shorter on time, and I think we've got some interesting thoughts here on the very end. I'm going to hand it over to you to talk this.
Perfect. If you let me share my screen, then I can share it with audio.
Yes. Hang on one sec. Done.
Those of you who haven't seen this product video from Visa yet.
Introducing Visa Intelligent Commerce, allowing AI to shop and buy. Add, smile, done. It's that simple. You're in control to make the final call. Or you set the limit and let it do the rest. New way to buy, same trusted, secure way to pay. Visa Intelligent Commerce. Use AI to buy.
Okay.
There we go. So definitely a more futuristic view on what this can look like. So far, we've been talking about agentic commerce in the sense that it helps you research, it helps you filter down options. Visa's future is much more futuristic. You click, find, and buy, and everything happens for you. So what needs to happen to make that future a reality? a couple screenshots that I want to talk you through. One is we can provide guidelines and limits to help trust the system more. We can say, okay, for that catering, I want Italian and Greek, maximum $800 for the whole party. Sure. What else can we do? Reunion trip, fun. We can let the user make the final decision. So not have the agent do everything while we're off working, but to confirm that this is indeed what we want. Sure. But in the end, I'm most interested in its next question. What is the dollar amount that you would authorize? What would you feel comfortable with delegating to an agent? And rather than asking you for a dollar amount, let's do a quick little experiment with a couple of polls. So if everyone could go to the poll section again, quick couple polls coming up right away. Would you let your AI assistant buy you a copy of Isaac Asimov's I, Robot? Very meta. Who would? Who wouldn't? I'd love to see some votes there. So if you can
for
go
$10. For $10.
For $10. Exactly.
For $10. Yeah.
I looked it up on Amazon, and I'm seeing mostly yeses. Okay, that's exactly what I was expecting. Let's move on to the next one. How about some groceries for the weekend? Let's up the dollar value. $85 for the weekend.
This is like The Price is Right.
Exactly. I feel like a game show
You are
host.
totally a game show host right now.
And right now it's 50-50. Yeah, 50-50. The thing with groceries is, yes, the dollar amount is higher, but the risk is quite low. The risk is you might have bad dinner over the weekend. You might have a little bit slightly expensive groceries or the wrong kind of tomatoes, but the risk is still quite low. How about this? How about your next pair of headphones? They're rather expensive because we're wanting noise canceling, and now the poll is going more towards no. So I'm seeing 2/3 of people are saying no. Still 16 brave people that are perfectly fine delegating this decision to an agent. Risk here is higher because I can be stuck with headphones that I really don't want. Now the big one. How about that next e-bike? Would you let your AI agent buy an e-bike worth $5,000? Okay, there's only one brave person who would delegate this decision, and everyone else is saying no, as expected. So let's look at what this could look like if we put the cargo bike image in the Visa image. What's wrong with this picture? If you can put it in chat, if you're very quick, what's wrong with this picture? There's two problems. Let's first look at the UX problems, right? And I understand that they needed to create a very clear picture here, so it's reasonable that they missed this. The bike is ugly, yeah, sure. So let's click UX problems. There's a couple. The price is indeed dumb. Yeah, the price is completely hidden. The features are hidden. What am I saying yes to, right? It's only an image. Sure, UX problems. Let's give them that. But what's the real problem here? What's the real problem in this picture? The real problem here is trust. Do I trust an agent with a decision with this high value? Do I trust an agent to not make the wrong choice? Because if it makes the wrong choice, I'm stuck with this bike for years on it. I don't want to risk this. So how can we fix this? If you have any ideas, please put them in chat. I took a stab at trying to fix this as well. So instead of this picture, how about the next picture? How about we say, one, we confirm that this is right for them. It's an outstanding design for easy loading and real family use. Show that you understood me. Show that you did the research. It's in budget. You asked for nothing more than $6,000. This one is $5,000. Okay, fine. But now comes the real kicker. How do we make sure that this purchase is AI ready? You're not going to say yes to $5,000, but you might be comfortable saying yes to a no risk trial of 2 weeks for $150. How can you make your product portfolio in such a way so that people feel comfortable delegating the decision to an agent? And while we're at it, let's also make full use of the agent, right? The agent knows when you're home. So already it will be delivered when you're at home. We check your calendar August 24th at 4 p.m., you're home, the bike will be there. Want to try it?
Yeah, perfect. I think Francis is raising a really, really good point here, and one that I think is near and dear to everyone at BOI's hearts, which is really a bigger shift that we're seeing here. You know, there's a lot of tactics that you can use to adapt for today, but there's something bigger happening here. And agents aren't just going to change how people buy, they're going to change what people buy and who captures that growth. So future-proofing your business isn't just about rethinking your funnel and doing the things we told you to do today to show up in agent search. It's actually about rethinking your business, your offer, your business model, maybe even challenging every category assumption for the category that you work in, the ones that you've been playing by the rules for the last 20 years or 10 years or whatever it might be. And this is changing for a world where the buyer is the agent, right? So the real challenge and the real opportunity for growth leaders is to start to really think about your offering, not your funnel. What do you think about this? So we'd love to talk more about this. You know, anyone can reach out on this topic. We're going to do a little Q&A, but just want to hype for 1 minute before we do. Our next Autonomous Summit is on December 3rd and 4th. There's free early bird tickets right now. We'll drop the link in the chat here as well as on our website at any time. So I'm going to stop sharing unless you want to screenshot either of us here and head over to some quick Q&A before we close out. All righty. Anyone have any thoughts or comments in the couple of minutes we have left? Let's see, scrolling. Trying to read through some of these. You see any good ones, Francis?
Content localization, yes, it's a thing. So what you want to make sure to do is that your content is highly relevant. So that means, for example, my main language is Dutch. Don't just produce Dutch bike content, but produce content that is localized to Holland, to Belgium, so that you have the language and the region both. And then an LLM is always going to prefer your content versus content from New Zealand that's very helpfully written, but definitely not relevant to you.
We have a question here saying, are you excited or scared about the future of this tech? I would say I am both at any given moment, equally trepidatious and equally interested. I get less scared when I think about applying AI to things that as humans alone we haven't been able to solve for versus applying AI to do the things that humans do well. I don't know, Francis, if you want to answer that question as well.
100%. Look, Google has been clear about this on multiple occasions. It is going to devalue AI-written content that is unhelpful. The keyword being here, unhelpful. Everyone can already see that Google has no way of figuring out whether content was AI-written or not. But if it's unhelpful content, it's going to get devalued, whether that's on Google search or whether that's in its elements in Gemini. So some companies might try to spam the internet, might try to write lots of content in an AI-generated way. In the end, it's the helpful content, the useful content, the niche content that's going to win out. So actually, there I'm quite hopeful that these systems can find the helpful stuff and filter it out.
And hopefully that happens quickly. I mean, LinkedIn alone right now is just a scary place to be as it relates to a lot of AI-generated content you really don't want to read, and the spam emails that are coming at a rate that we've never seen before. So for sure, hopeful for that moment. Any other thoughts here, Francis?
Yeah, whether to invest in creating their own chatbots or creating content that's optimized for agents, it's definitely not either or, but creating optimized content is a must-have. Make sure you have a catalog of content with all of the right information about your products, about your brands. That is helpful. It's such low-hanging fruit to do. And on top of that, don't just produce your own content. Really do an audit and figure out for the prompts that you know your customers are asking LLMs, which websites, which articles are being cited by AI. Is that a Forbes top 10 list, for example? Okay, now you know. And now you're going to check, are you on that list? And if you're not, that is a huge PR opportunity. And that is where you should be putting much more budget.
Yeah, and that's the treating PR like a distribution channel, really thinking much more thoughtfully about it. It's not just what happens to you, it's what you make happen, given what you're seeing in terms of the trends in chat results. Okay, great. Well, I think we have reached the natural end. This was supposed to be 45 minutes, so we've got almost an hour. So thank you for hanging with us. Great end of summer to everyone here. And hopefully we'll see you at Autonomous or in upcoming webinars. There's a lot of them, so check them out on our site.
Okay, thank you so much. See you.
Bye.